Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at CleanSpark. This was a stock analysis request from one of the followers, and I wanted to let you know that anyone can make these requests and I will most likely cover them, especially if there is an actionable trade setup to follow. Now on this chart we are looking at a pretty decent initial movement to the upside from the all-time low. Yeah, I am even able to be tracking this pattern to the upside as an impulse, but the main point is it is a 5-wave structure. Yeah, even if it weren't an impulse, it is a 5-wave structure, and we have our correction followed here in a wave 2, and we pushed into the 78.6% retracement. In fact, we broke briefly below it, which honestly it is not ideal. Yeah, it does pose some risks, but still we managed to push back higher and even outside the area of support, which is already a good sign that this structure does still have a very good chance of working out. The problem really is that from this wave 2 low, we only managed to form a 3-wave pattern to the upside so far. This structure could still morph, I mean, not necessarily morph, it could still extend into a 5-wave pattern. Yeah, we could be tracking this overall as a 1, 2, third, fourth, and the fifth to the upside within a leading diagonal, and we are going to be looking for this interpretation preferably, where if it actually fails to build such a pattern, we would have a much lower quality trade setup over the longer time frame than if we did. Now, ideally, we are looking to be forming here a third wave to the upside, but for this to be the case, we actually absolutely need to build here the fifth wave. Yeah, we need to have a full pattern. Even if in this fifth wave we are looking to only build an ABC structure, we are looking to have the entire structure complete. And in that case, we can be looking here in the very short time frame for support for a wave B correction at the levels between the $14.4 all the way down to the $8.5 level. Now again, this is an ABC pattern, which isn't necessarily the highest probability. Yeah, if I see an ABC pattern, even on the large time frame, I do hold significant skepticism about the probabilities that this will end up working out. But if it does, we would like it to ideally hold above the levels of support. Yeah, we would like it to not break the 78.6% retracement, which so far it hasn't, and it has already even pushed outside the area of support, indicating already that this structure to the downside, this wave B, is likely complete. Now, if we are to look for an ideal target here for the wave C to the upside, we would be looking at the 100% extension of the wave A, which would be around the $33 level. Now, this is an ideal target. We don't need to get there. We don't need to stop there. Yeah, we could even go to, let's say, the 138.2% extension, the $54 level. But I would still like, however, to form a decently sizable fifth wave to the upside. Yeah, we have pushed here into the $25 level almost in the third wave. We haven't managed to get above that in the wave A to the upside. Yeah, even this pattern could have been applicable for an ABC structure, but it wasn't necessarily large enough for us to consider this the entire wave 5. So I wouldn't be looking this or at this even in a truncation as a fifth wave, and that would be especially due to the size of this correction in the wave 4. Yeah, if we don't manage to form here the ABC structure, I would likely consider that this overall pattern to the upside would have been just an ABC structure, and I would still be tracking this as a wave 1 up, and I would be looking for a wave 2 correction, but not in a third wave to the upside. Yeah, if this only manages to form this structure to the upside, I would be tracking a larger ABC pattern, where in the wave C we can be tracking an ending diagonal, but if this is a third wave, it must be an impulse, which is why we need the 5-wave pattern. Now, if we really are to fail to form here this fifth wave to complete it to the upside, I would already be watching out for a larger area of support in a 1-2 setup, and again, it doesn't even have the high probabilities that I would be looking for such a pattern. Yeah, even if this is a 1-2 setup, it is not a high probability 1-2 setup, and I would rather prefer to stay away and wait for a more reliable pattern that to have formed at least in a smaller time frame. Yeah, something like a 5-wave move in this area to indicate that this could be an A wave up. I have a high probability for a wave B correction to reverse into a wave C to new highs. And for now, this is pretty much it. I can tell you some more details. For example, in this wave 3 to the upside, we haven't necessarily gotten into the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. It is close enough, however, that we may be able to allow such a small distortion. But then also in the wave 4 correction, we haven't held even the 61.8% retracement. However, here we only managed to break it briefly and we recovered quickly enough, especially if we look at it from a weekly time frame perspective. Yeah, this is also can be allowed. It is not necessarily a problem as it only barely just pushed into the wave 1 territory, which is rather preferred for a large diagonal pattern to be forming. Yeah, it is preferred that in the wave 4 in a diagonal pattern you get into the wave 1 territory, whereas if we were to be looking for an impulse, it would be an absolute invalidation of it would be actually an absolute invalidation of an impulse forming this area to get into the wave 1 territory, which is also why I cannot really be tracking this as a 1, 2, 1, 2, third, fourth, and the fifth. And this is another reason, besides not holding the area of support, the 50% retracement. But those are just some details. For now, you have the areas of support that we must hold, and if we are to look here in the very, very short time frame, well, there isn't too much going on in terms of a bearish resistance area, because we have already pushed here above the 50% retracement for a possible 1, 2, 3. Yeah, if we look here, we got already into the 61.8% retracement territory, and it is rather preferred to me that unless we may form a larger 5-wave pattern in a diagonal to the downside, that we push already in the wave C to the upside, and we seem to have enough strength to build such a pattern. And we will need to be, for now, a little bit patient a little bit longer. And I'm not saying that we cannot turn this into a larger correction and still follow through in the yellow scenario. I suppose we could in that case be looking for something like an ABC structure, and the latest level of resistance that I would like to see broken for this to not really be a high probability would be the 78.6% retracement at the $19 level, the $19.2 level. And for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.